Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are very happy to share with you different stories about love and betrayal from around the world. So let's begin our story journey today. The photo of the twins at the piano was placed by Ethan in the most prominent position on the bookshelf. Not to reminisce, but as a reminder. A reminder of how his wife Vivien cruelly disappeared when their babies were just 3 months old, abandoning him and 2 helpless infants. That was 4 years ago. Ethan, 43, night manager at the Desert Oasis Motel, secured the child's seats in the back of his SUV, making sure twins Lily and Lucas were safely buckled in. As a volunteer coach for the community youth basketball team, he spent 3 afternoons each week training these children. Though the income was modest, the satisfaction this work brought him far exceeded his previous high-paying position in the corporate world. Since Vivien left, he had restructured his life, choosing a career that allowed him to balance work and raising children. "Dad, will we win today?" Lucas asked. "What's important isn't winning, but trying your best, remember?" Ethan smiled, looking at the children through the rearview mirror. Although he had tried to forget over these years, Vivien's departure remained vivid in his mind. It was the day after the twins' 3-month birthday when she packed her bags, saying she needed to breathe fresh air, that she wasn't suited to be a mother, that her mother Sylvia had always told her marriage would ruin her life. Then she left, leaving him with a note and 2 infants he barely knew how to care for. Later, he discovered the deeper reason for her departure. At that moment, in Phoenix's upscale business district not far away, Vivien stood adjusting her Hermes scarf in the mirror. As Phoenix's most renowned high-end wedding planner, her career was at its peak. Her client list included local celebrities, sports stars, and tech millionaires, while her Instagram followers exceeded 300,000, with each wedding becoming the talk of the town. For years had passed, and she had almost forgotten the constraints that accidental marriage had placed on her. Her mother Sylvia was right. That marriage was a mistake. Ethan could never meet her expectations for life. And now, with Xavier, the regional manager of a luxury goods store, she had finally found a partner who matched her social status. "There's a planning meeting for the Goldstein family wedding this afternoon, darling. I might be back late," Vivien said into the phone. "Don't worry, I have an important client tonight too," Xavier's voice came through the speaker. "Remember tomorrow's charity dinner. The new product collection needs exposure." Vivien hung up, satisfied with her reflection in the mirror. Life had finally returned to normal, full of luxury, social events, and success. No crying babies, no financial struggles, no middle-class mediocrity. Her mother Sylvia always said Vivien deserved the best, not to be trapped in suburban life raising children. She selectively forgot that it was Ethan who supported her when her career was at its lowest, and it was he who provided emotional support after her father's death. Those memories had been overlaid by her new life. Now she was the queen of Phoenix's wedding circle, dubbed the wedding magician by the media. Meanwhile, at the luxury center on the other side of the city, Xavier was selling luxury goods obtained through special channels to a group of wealthy Asian tourists. As a regional manager, he had sufficient resources to access high-quality counterfeits, and these tourists could hardly distinguish authentic from fake. As long as the packaging was elegant and there was a discount, they would pay without hesitation. "This limited edition is only available to internal employees. The price I'm giving you is already very favorable," Xavier smiled, his smooth sales pitch convincing. No one knew Xavier had another side. He was skilled in deception and manipulation, both with clients and in relationships. He chose Vivien not just for her appearance, but because she could bring high-end client resources. Wedding planners come into contact with people willing to spend big money, and these people were precisely his targets. That evening, Ethan was processing check-in procedures at the motel's front desk. Though the night manager job was quiet, it also meant he could look after the children during the day for school and after-school activities. He never regretted adjusting his life for the children, even if it meant giving up his previous high-paying position at a financial firm. His phone lit up with a message from the basketball team's assistant coach. "Tomorrow's practice match opponent has changed. Now it's the Hawks from the east side of town. They're pretty strong." Ethan replied, "The kids will give their all. No matter who the opponent is, what's important is the process." At this moment, he thought of Vivien again. She never understood why he was willing to spend time on these unrewarding activities. She always pursued immediate success and rewards, just as her mother Sylvia had taught her. Ethan, on the other hand, believed that the most precious things in life often require time and patience. Mr. Ethan, the water heater in room 1 seems to be having problems again. The young man at the front desk interrupted his thoughts. I'll take a look. Ethan put down his phone and picked up his toolbox. Fixing things always calmed him down, just like coaching the team. Focusing on the present, solving the immediate problem, not thinking about a past that couldn't be recovered. Vivien sat at the wedding venue she had designed, watching the couple exchange vows, feeling nothing in her heart. This was the 12th wedding she had planned this year, each one flawless, each one generating thousands of likes on her social media accounts. However, when the bride said, "Till death do us part," she felt a hollowness inside. She knew she had never truly fulfilled that vow. But quickly, this fleeting guilt was drowned out by the constant notifications on her phone. The wedding scenes she had meticulously planned were being shared by guests on various social platforms, with the hashtag #VivienMagic once again becoming a trending topic. This was the life she wanted, wasn't it? Gorgeous setting, though the content is quite conventional. Xavier suddenly appeared behind her, speaking softly. Vivien turned to see Xavier in a tailored suit, holding a champagne glass, perfectly blending into the atmosphere of this luxurious wedding. "I didn't expect you to come," she said. "Wanted to surprise you. Just signed a big client today, worth celebrating." Xavier raised his glass, and Vivien noticed the gleam of the new Patek Philippe watch on his wrist. Since meeting Xavier, she had quickly grown accustomed to this pace of life. Unexpected gifts, high-end parties, and constant social opportunities. These were all things Ethan could never give her. Looking back, her meeting with Ethan was a mistake in itself. She had just graduated from design school and was working at a small party planning company, while Ethan was a financial analyst at an investment firm. They met at a corporate event, and Ethan's stability and thoughtfulness provided support when she had just lost her father. But as time passed, Vivien became increasingly dissatisfied. Ethan's life was too regular, lacking the social halo and symbols of success she craved. Shortly after marrying, Vivien found her first high-end client through her mother Sylvia's connections, beginning her career as a wedding planner. As she established herself in social circles, she found Ethan's world increasingly distant from hers. He was unwilling to attend lavish parties and didn't understand why she needed designer clothes and expensive accessories to maintain her image. The pregnancy was an accident. She had never planned to have children, but when those two lines appeared, Ethan was overjoyed while she felt afraid. To reassure her, Ethan promised she could continue working, that he would adjust his schedule to care for the child. However, when they learned it was twins, Vivien completely broke down. "How am I going to manage my career?" she shouted at Ethan. "We can figure it out together. This is a gift from heaven." Ethan tried to comfort her, but reality was crueler than she had imagined. The double blow of postpartum depression and career stagnation left her breathless. Watching competitors showcase one perfect wedding after another on social media, while she was trapped at home consoling two constantly crying infants. Her clients began to leave, her social status began to decline. It was at this low point that her mother Sylvia proposed that solution, perfectly catering to Vivien's internal selfishness and vanity. "Darling, you don't have to ruin your life for a mistake," Sylvia said during a lunch. "He was never good enough for you, never was. Look at you now. This isn't the daughter I raised. I know some lawyers who can help you get out of all this. But the children are only 3 months old." Vivien pretended to hesitate, while internally, she was already eager to break free from this constraint. "Ethan is a responsible man. He'll take good care of them. And you need to regain your freedom." Sylvia patted her hand. "I've prepared a new apartment for you in the city. You can move in any time. It's in the fashion district, close to those high-end clients." Hearing high-end clients, Vivien's eyes lit up. A week later, with her luggage and the card of a lawyer arranged by Sylvia, Vivien left that diaper-smelling house without hesitation. The divorce was processed quickly. Ethan didn't fight for any property, only requiring that she give up custody of the children. She signed readily, thinking only of the brilliant career and social life that would begin after regaining her freedom. "Darling, what are you thinking about?" Xavier's voice brought her back to reality. "Nothing, just thinking about the next project." Vivien smiled, hiding that momentary internal discomfort. I heard the Pearson family's daughter is getting engaged. That could be a big client. Xavier's eyes lit up. I know the Pearsons. Perhaps I can arrange an introduction. However, this will require some special preparation. He deliberately paused, his fingers caressing Vivien's wrist. Vivien understood what he meant. Xavier always had ways to obtain insider information or establish special relationships, though she had never asked about the specific details of these methods. This was the tacit agreement between them. She provided high society connections, and he used these resources to develop his business. After the wedding, Vivien and Xavier drove to his downtown apartment. On the way, Xavier received a phone call, his expression suddenly becoming grave. After hanging up, he remained silent, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "What's wrong?" Vivien asked. "Nothing serious, just some minor trouble at the store." Xavier forced a smile, but Vivien noticed small beads of sweat had formed on his forehead. Back at the apartment, Xavier immediately opened his laptop, quickly browsing through something. When Vivien approached, he swiftly closed the screen. "Just work stuff. Don't worry," he said, getting up to pour himself a drink. "You look tired. Better rest early." Vivien nodded and walked toward the bedroom, but the feeling of unease wouldn't leave her. This wasn't the first time Xavier had avoided talking about his work, but tonight's reaction was particularly unusual. She knew Xavier's luxury goods sales performance was exceptionally good, exceeding other regional managers every quarter, but he had never explained in detail how he achieved this. As she was preparing to change clothes, Xavier's laptop emitted an alert sound. Out of curiosity, she gently opened the screen and saw an unread email. The email preview showed several words, "Counterfeits circulating in the market." Your name was mentioned. "Internal investigation." Vivien quickly closed the computer, her heart racing. She had always vaguely suspected Xavier's business wasn't entirely above board, but never thought things would be so serious. At that moment, she realized that her understanding of Xavier might be limited to the surface. Just as when Xavier initially approached her, he only valued the social resources she could provide. The next morning, Vivien pretended everything was normal, but closely observed Xavier's every move. He was more agitated than usual, constantly checking his phone, with a cold gleam in his eyes she had never seen before. "I might be back late today, have an important meeting," Xavier said, hurriedly finishing his coffee. "That's fine. I have work too," Vivien responded, though mentally planning how to learn more information. After Xavier left, Vivien began searching for clues in the apartment. In a travel bag deep in the closet, she found several empty luxury item boxes and some receipts, but the brand logos and serial numbers differed slightly from regular products. She wasn't an expert in authenticating luxury goods, but her intuition told her something wasn't right. Just then, her phone rang with a message from Martha, an old classmate she hadn't contacted in years. "Have you seen the news? Your boyfriend's company is being investigated for large-scale selling of counterfeits. Are you okay?" Vivien's heart sank. She immediately turned on the TV and tuned to the local news channel. On the screen, a reporter stood in front of the luxury goods store where Xavier worked, with law enforcement officers entering and leaving the building in the background. The reporter's voice came through clearly. "Preliminary investigation shows that the regional manager of this chain, Xavier, has been systematically involved in selling counterfeit luxury goods for years, with victims primarily being wealthy tourists unfamiliar with the market." Vivien froze as Xavier's photo appeared on the TV. At that moment, her world seemed to collapse. Not only was she disappointed in Xavier, but she also questioned her own judgment. Once again, she had been deceived by a man with a shiny surface, and this time, she might lose her hard-built reputation and career due to her association with him. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone to contact Xavier, only to find she had been blocked. Even more shockingly, photos of her with Xavier were already circulating on social media, with the comments section filled with questions and mockery. "Wedding magician and counterfeit master, perfect match." Just as she was trying to clear her thoughts, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw two police officers standing outside. She took a deep breath and opened the door. "Ms. Vivien, we have some questions about Xavier we'd like you to answer," one officer said. Ethan was processing bills in the motel's small office, the television quietly broadcasting local news, when a particular story caught his attention. Well-known wedding planner Vivien arrested, allegedly linked to luxury goods counterfeiting case. He looked up to see Vivien's face on the television, being escorted into a police car. Although 4 years had passed, that face still stirred something in him. Not love, but the memory of wounds that couldn't heal. The reporter continued, preliminary investigation shows that Ms. Vivien may have been involved in her boyfriend Xavier's counterfeit luxury goods sales network, using her wedding planning business to promote these products to high-end clients. Ethan stared at the screen, incredulous. His ex-wife, the woman who abandoned her family to pursue a better life, was now caught in a huge scandal. In some ways, this seemed like ironic karma, but he felt no schadenfreude, only a complex emptiness. "Dad, can we have ice cream?" Lily's voice came from the doorway. Ethan immediately turned off the TV, turning to the twins who had just returned from school. "Of course, but finish your homework first, okay?" He knelt down and hugged both children. This was his world, his everything. Vivien's matters were irrelevant to them. He had long decided to bury that past deep in his heart. However, fate seemed to have its own plans. The next day, as he was coaching the team at the community center, a familiar figure appeared at the edge of the court. Sylvia, Vivien's mother, the woman who once told Vivien to leave this mismatched marriage, stood there, looking at him with complicated emotions. Ethan continued directing the players in practice, pretending not to see her. After training, when the children had each left, he reluctantly approached Sylvia. "Long time no see, Ethan." Sylvia attempted to smile, but her eyes were filled with fatigue. "What do you want, Sylvia?" Ethan's tone was cold. "I suppose you've seen the news." "Vivien." She paused, as if searching for the right words. "She's in trouble." "That has nothing to do with me." Ethan turned to leave. "The police have frozen all her assets. She needs help." Sylvia's voice carried a hint of pleading. Ethan stopped in his tracks, turned back, disbelief flashing in his eyes. "You're coming to me for help? After helping her abandon me and the children 4 years ago?" Sylvia lowered her head. "I know I made a terrible mistake. But now Vivien really needs help. She was tricked. That man used her. Just like you told her I wasn't good enough?" Ethan interrupted. "Listen, Sylvia, I'm sorry Vivien is in trouble, but that's not my problem. I have 2 children to take care of. They are my responsibility." "The children?" A flash of longing appeared in Sylvia's eyes. "Are they well?" "You have no right to ask about them." Ethan's tone was resolute. "You and Vivien gave up that right 4 years ago." Sylvia looked as if she had been slapped, but she didn't object. Instead, she took out a note from her purse. "If you change your mind, here's my contact information. Vivien truly regrets everything, Ethan. Maybe this is a chance to make amends." Ethan took the note, but showed no reaction. He watched Sylvia leave, feelings mixed in his heart. Back at the motel, he placed the note in a drawer, telling himself it was merely out of politeness. He would never contact them. In the following days, the news continued to report on developments in Vivien and Xavier's case. According to reports, Xavier had fled the country, while Vivien was released on bail due to lack of direct evidence. But her wedding planning company had lost most clients, and her social media accounts were flooded with angry comments. A week later, as Ethan was preparing dinner, he received a call from an unknown number. "Ethan, it's me, Vivien." The voice on the other end sounded broken. Ethan's first reaction was to hang up immediately, but he decided to hear what she had to say, just to ensure she wouldn't interfere in his life again. "What do you want?" he asked coldly. "I know I have no right to bother you, but I really have nowhere to go." Vivien's voice was tearful. "Mom told me she saw you. I know you must hate me, but I really need help. Where's your mother? Doesn't she always have solutions for everything?" Ethan said sarcastically. "Her house has been seized. The police think she might have known about Xavier's plans. Everyone has abandoned me, Ethan." Ethan laughed coldly. "Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The feeling of being abandoned. That's what you did to me and the children 4 years ago. I'm sorry, Ethan, I truly regret it. I just want to see the children, even if just once. Then I promise I'll never bother you again." "No way." Ethan refused without hesitation. "You should have anticipated this day when you chose to leave. I won't let you have the chance to hurt them again. Please, Ethan, just once." "I said no." Ethan cut her off. "Don't call this number again. If you try to approach my children, I will immediately apply for a restraining order." With that, He hung up the phone and blocked the number. Ethan would not give a traitor a second chance to hurt his family, no matter how pitiful she appeared. The next afternoon, Ethan took the twins to the community park, feeling uneasy. He hadn't told the children who they were going to meet, only that it was one of Dad's old friends. Lily and Lucas had no idea about the imminent meeting, just excitedly running toward the swings and slides. Vivien arrived punctually, but Ethan could hardly recognize her. The once glamorous wedding planner now looked haggard, dressed in simple jeans and a t-shirt, without any luxury accessories, hair simply tied back. This was very different from the woman Ethan remembered, always carefully groomed, repeatedly checking herself in the mirror. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," Vivien said softly, her eyes fixed on the twins playing in the distance. "They've grown so much." "For years," Ethan simply responded, then raised his voice. "Lily, Lucas, come over for a minute." The twins ran over curiously, standing beside Ethan, warily eyeing this strange woman. "Kids, this is Aunt Vivien, an old friend of Dad's." Ethan carefully chose his words. "Hello, Aunt Vivien." The children politely greeted, but obviously felt uncomfortable around this suddenly appearing stranger. Vivien knelt down, trying to maintain a smile, but tears were already forming in her eyes. "Hello, it's good to see you. Do you like the park?" Lucas nodded. "I like the swings." Lily was more cautious. "Dad says we can only play for half an hour because we have basketball practice today." "You play basketball?" Vivien looked at Ethan, who nodded. "Dad is the coach," Lucas proudly said. "Our team won a game last week." Vivien tried to continue the conversation, but it was evident the children were more interested in returning to the swings and quickly lost interest. Ethan gave them permission, and the twins immediately ran back to the playground equipment. "They look healthy, happy," Vivien said softly, tears finally falling. "Yes, they are fine," Ethan briefly answered. "I don't know what to say, Ethan." "I'm sorry seems far from enough." Vivien took a deep breath. "But I am truly, deeply sorry. I ruined everything, and now, it's all coming back to me." Ethan silently watched the children in the distance, mixed emotions in his heart. He had expected seeing Vivien would rekindle that anger and pain, but at this moment, he only felt a strange calmness, even a hint of pity. Not because of forgiveness, but because he had moved past that chapter while she was trapped by her own choices. "Xavier ran away, didn't he?" he asked. Vivien nodded. "He took all the money, not even a goodbye. Just like what I did to you," she laughed bitterly. "The irony is, Mom adored him, said he was the right one for me. Now she's also being investigated for involvement. What do you plan to do next?" "I don't know," Vivien admitted. "All clients canceled contracts, social media accounts are being attacked. Even the apartment I rented was taken back. I might leave this city, start over, if that's possible." At that moment, Lucas fell from the slide and began crying. Ethan immediately ran over, expertly comforting the child, checking the wound, then giving him a hug. Vivien stood still, watching the scene, suddenly realizing what she had lost. Not just a family, but that unconditional love and support, that promise not to leave in difficult times. "You're a good father, Ethan," she said sincerely when he returned. "They're lucky to have you." "I'm just doing what parents should do," Ethan replied, no accusation in his tone, but the words themselves were the greatest indictment. The half-hour quickly passed. Ethan coldly looked at his watch and told the twins, "Time's up. We need to go to basketball practice." The children hastily said goodbye to Vivien, not knowing this stranger's true relationship to them. "Ethan, can I see them again?" Vivien gathered courage to ask as he prepared to leave. Ethan turned, his gaze cold. "No, this is the first and last time. You gave up that right 4 years ago. Now you have no right to enter their lives." "But they are mine. They are nothing to you." Ethan cut her off categorically. "You should have understood this when you decided to leave. I won't let you hurt them again." Watching Ethan and the children walk away, Vivien felt a heart-wrenching pain. Only now did she truly understand what she had lost, and how complete and irreversible this loss was. However, it was all too late. The following weeks passed normally for Ethan and the twins, but for Vivien, they were a nightmare. Her wedding planning company completely collapsed, her savings were used for legal fees, and her social circle distanced themselves from her due to the scandal. Worse still, The investigation revealed that Xavier had been using her wedding business for years to contact wealthy clients and sell them counterfeit luxury goods. Although there was no direct evidence Vivien knew about this, many still expressed doubts. A month later, as Ethan was working at the motel reception, he received an email from an unknown sender. It was from Xavier's former colleague, and the content surprised him. "Mr. Ethan, I'm Howard, a former co-worker of Xavier's. I know your relationship with Vivien and believe you should know some things. Xavier has been using Vivien to access high-end clients, but she likely didn't know about it. I have evidence showing Xavier systematically stole client information and sold counterfeits, and I also have recordings that can prove Vivien's innocence. I'm willing to provide these to you because I believe the truth should be known." Ethan stared at the screen, unsure how to react. On one hand, Vivien's predicament was none of his concern. On the other, if she truly had been used rather than being an accomplice, it seemed unfair for her to bear all the consequences. After a night of consideration, he replied to Howard, agreeing to receive the evidence. After receiving the materials, Ethan spent an entire week organizing them. The recordings clearly showed that Xavier deliberately concealed his illegal activities and many times used Vivien's client relationships when she wasn't present. There was also evidence that Xavier had forged multiple documents, using Vivien's signature for unauthorized transactions. Ethan found himself in a dilemma. He could hand these materials to the police, helping Vivien clear her name, or he could ignore them, letting her face the consequences herself. The resentment accumulated over these years almost led him to choose the latter, but some deeper moral sense prevented him from doing so. Finally, he decided to anonymously send the evidence to the officer in charge of the case and send a brief message to Vivien. "I received some information that might help you. I've already handed it to the police. Don't contact me. This is the last time I'll intervene in your life." 2 weeks later, local news reported that Xavier had been arrested abroad and announced that some charges against Vivien were being dropped, though she still faced charges for gross negligence and should have known but failed to take action, along with civil compensations. Ethan smiled ironically when he saw this news. He provided the evidence only to reveal the truth, not to help Vivien. He knew clearly that, regardless of whether Vivien was aware or not, her selfishness and greed were the root of all tragedy. Justice would prevail, and everyone would pay for their choices. However, fate seemed to have different plans. A few days later, a team member told Ethan that a familiar figure had been watching their practice from outside the training field. When Ethan peeked out to check, he found it was Sylvia, Vivien's mother, sitting in the stands, looking at the field with complex emotions. After training, Ethan reluctantly approached her. "Thank you," Sylvia said directly. "I know it was you who provided that evidence." "I just did what anyone would do in that situation," Ethan responded. "This doesn't mean I've forgiven you." Sylvia nodded. "I understand. I didn't come today seeking forgiveness, but to tell you that I've realized my mistake. I used to believe material things and social status were the measure of everything. I wrongly guided Vivien, leading her to make terrible decisions." She paused, tears in her eyes. "I lost a complete family, lost the chance to watch my grandchildren grow up, and all because of my arrogance and short-sightedness. Now I understand that what was truly valuable was the unconditional support and love you offered Vivien, which we foolishly threw away." Ethan coldly looked at Sylvia, showing no emotion. The damage this mother and daughter had caused him and the children over the years was not something a simple act of contrition could erase. "Your remorse means nothing to me, Sylvia." His voice was calm but firm. "The choices you made have caused irreparable harm. Vivien has decided to leave this city," Sylvia said quietly, obviously intimidated by Ethan's cold attitude. "She says the best way is to completely remove herself from your lives. That's the only correct decision she's made in 4 years." Ethan responded mercilessly, not a trace of nostalgia or regret on his face. To him, Vivien was already in the past, not worth spending any emotion on. "Me too." Sylvia stood up to leave, but paused. "One more thing, Ethan. I'd like to personally sponsor the community basketball team. Not to curry favor with you or by contact with the children, just to support this meaningful project for the community. You can refuse, I completely understand." Ethan looked at this once proud woman, who now looked much older, with genuine remorse in her eyes. The team did need funds for new equipment and facility rental, and rejecting this sponsorship seemed like using the children's benefit to punish Sylvia's mistakes. "We don't need your charity," he coldly rejected. "We're doing fine. We don't need anything related to you." Sylvia appeared dejected and silently walked away. Watching her retreating figure, Ethan felt nothing. His resentment toward mother and daughter had transformed into cold indifference. They didn't deserve his emotions, not even his anger. A week later, as Ethan was spending the weekend with the twins at the community park, his phone received a message from an unknown number. It was Vivien, attaching a photo, their last family photo from 4 years ago, with all four of them. "I'm packing to leave and found this photo. I think you and the children should keep it. I can never repair the mistakes I made, but I want you to know I regret my choices. Thank you for the evidence you provided, even though I don't deserve it. Goodbye." Ethan briefly looked at the message, then deleted it, subsequently blocking the number. This was typical Vivien style, remembering to feel remorse only when everything is out of control, valuing what she had only when she's lost everything. He didn't need this cheap sentiment, nor would he let the shadows of the past once again overshadow his and the children's lives. He deleted the photo without hesitation, just as he had long ago deleted those memories from his heart. The twins' laughter reached his ears. That was the only reality he cared about. A year later, in autumn, the Desert Oasis Motel hung a new sign, "Ethan's Leisure Hotel," and became the main sponsor of the local youth basketball league. After renovation, this once shabby motel was transformed, becoming a commercial highlight of the community. Ethan stood at the new hotel's reception, watching the twins excitedly running around the lobby. This year they turned 6 and were about to start first grade. Every day filled with new surprises and challenges. "Looks good, Ethan." The community basketball team's assistant coach walked into the lobby, looking around. "Thanks. It's the result of team effort," Ethan smiled in response. During the renovation, the basketball team members and community volunteers used their weekends to help, making the entire process filled with warmth. Ethan's business success was due to his firm determination and community support. He obtained a loan through an old friend in banking and, with his own savings of many years, successfully transformed the motel into a profitable small hotel. At the same time, his basketball team gained sponsorship from local businesses thanks to excellent management and training. As for Vivien and Sylvia, Ethan had completely excluded them from his life. It was said that Vivien had moved to the West Coast, while Sylvia had to sell her mansion due to financial problems and move to the suburbs. But none of this concerned Ethan, who had long cut all contact with them. Xavier's story, on the other hand, had a very different ending. After being arrested abroad, he was extradited to face multiple charges of fraud and commercial deception. The investigation also revealed his similar patterns of behavior in the past, using charm and lies to approach valuable women, then exploiting their social circles and resources for personal gain. During the trial, several ex-girlfriends and victims stood up to testify, revealing his 10-year history of fraud. Finally, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison and required to pay substantial fines. Today was the day of the hotel's reopening and also the final of the community basketball tournament. Ethan had left the motel's management to reliable employees, focusing on his coaching work and the children's growth. "Dad, can we go to the court? The game is about to start," Lucas eagerly asked, pulling Ethan's hand. "Of course, champions, let's go," Ethan responded, smiling, helping the twins arrange their clothes. As he was leaving the hotel, Ethan's phone received a message. It was a local news alert with the headline, "Former wedding planner Vivien publishes memoir, revealing luxury industry secrets and her own experiences." Ethan paused and opened the news, quickly scanning the content. The article mentioned that Vivien's book honestly described her wrong choices and the consequences, as well as how she found herself again after a life crisis. Critics described the book as a true story of self-destruction and redemption, praising its profound analysis of women who make wrong decisions under social pressure. The article concluded with a quote from Vivien, "I lost life's most precious gift, a family and unconditional love, simply because I was deluded by illusory success and surface glamour. When I finally saw the truth, it was too late to recover it. If my experience can prevent even one person from making the same mistake, then my pain will have had some meaning." Ethan closed the news with an ironic smile. Vivien would always be that hypocritical wedding planner, packaging real pain into a beautiful story to sell to an audience hungry for drama. Her remorse was just another performance, a means to rebuild her public image. And he was already immune to these tricks. "Dad, what's wrong?" Lily's voice brought him back to reality. "Nothing, just some boring messages." Ethan put away his phone and firmly said, "Come on, we have a game to win." Walking toward the court, Ethan had mental clarity. He didn't regret his past choices, cutting ties with traitors, staying away from those who had hurt him, focusing on what truly deserved his attention. Nothing was more important than forging his and his children's happiness with his own hands. On the court, watching his players strive and the twins excitedly cheering for him, Ethan knew he had made the right choice. Traitors would eventually receive their due, while he had achieved the true victory, a new life, free from the shadows of the past. This was the best response to betrayal. Cut completely, never look back. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content. See you in the next story.